Morning. It's so good to be back at WWT Welney. Where it seems a few things have changed. So this is of course not my first visit. Coming back here today signifies that my task of visiting all the WWT reserves in the UK has come to an end. Now the reason I've come back to Welney is that first film I did about WWT from Welney wasn't actually labelled as part of a tour of the WWT. I think I labelled it as a winter welly walk, which it certainly was. It was only when I went to Arundel for the second film in this series that the idea came to me that it might be a task I could set myself to visit all of the reserves in the UK. So as I walk around the reserve today, I'll take a closer look than I did in the first film and also give you some of my thoughts on my journey around the country. Now the notions I really want to avoid are any thought of a favourite, or that this is some kind of best of video. I will, however, give you some idea of my thoughts on the differences between some of the reserves. So Welney, for example, like Scotland and to an extent Sturt Marshes, is a bit off the beaten track. Now, as I'm mentioning Sturt Marshes, it's the only one you don't have to pay to get into. Now, when I visited Sturt Marshes, there was very little there in the way of facilities, just a car park and a few signs. So it made it unfair to draw too many comparisons with the other reserves. So if you're looking for reserves which have a bit more of a wild feel to them, I'd say yes, definitely Welney, Scotland, Sturt Marshes of course. And I'll throw in Wales as well, because that's very much a reserve of two halves. One half being much more of a visitor attraction, and Millennium Wetlands being set aside distinctly as a wilderness area. It should be said, however, that all of the reserves offer at least one part which has longer paths, less busy, more like a traditional wildlife reserve. Whilst in the same day out, you can enjoy facilities, managed enclosures and organised activities if you so wish. Now, once again, without mentioning favourites or least favourites, there is one reserve that I probably won't go back to, and that's London. That's not because I didn't enjoy my day out, I really did have a good time. It's more that I don't really like cities, I don't like travelling through cities. But once you get there, there are places within the reserve that do feel quite wild. That's if you can ignore being under the flight path for Heathrow. Now, having said that I probably won't go back to London, I would like to offer a few words of praise for the reserve. There are an awful lot of educational facilities and events going on there. with numerous school visits as well. I think my overriding conclusion about London was that it was just so fantastic to have a facility like that in the middle of the capital city. Not surprising perhaps when surrounded by so much population that the educational facilities are so evident. Now some of the other reserves are also close to centres of population and feature an accent on education and family activities. And those from memory would be Stonebridge near Bristol, Arundel, Martin Mere and Washington. Although as I said previously, they all feature some kind of activity and educational elements. I don't think I walked out this far on the last visit to Welney. I do like the fens, the feeling of flatness, size of the sky, that kind of thing. Less enjoyable was my arrival here today. One of the approach roads was closed and the diversion I was sent on followed the line of the drainage rivers, the Great Ouse I think, and the route I was sent on followed the edge of the waterways. Many of the roads seem to suffer from subsidence. Looks like I've come to the end of the reserve. Really is a stunning environment here. Now a lot of the paths here at Welney, very long, very straight. Bit of a feature of being in the fens, I suppose. So as well as being a journey around the 4 countries of the UK to visit the reserves, this has also been a bit of a journey for me in terms of filmmaking. I'm pretty sure my tour of all the sites has taken me the best part of 4 years, and then a bit more to edit and publish on YouTube. Now in terms of how far have I travelled to visit all of the sites, well, I don't live near any of them. The closest in terms of mileage I suppose would be London. Yet here at Welney and also Arundel, they would take me about the same amount of time to travel to as London. Part of the reason why it took so long to go to all of them was I had to build some of the visits into longer trips away. I couldn't realistically travel all the way from South East England to Scotland purely for one reserve. There's something that's true of all the WWT reserves. There's a number and quality of viewing platforms and hides. Dotted around the longer paths on most of the reserves are things like this. Doesn't mean you're guaranteed to see anything, of course, but they are well thought out. Simple, well-maintained viewing areas. That's a comment for all of the reserves, is that everything is very well maintained and thought out. So returning to the subject of London for a moment, the reserve is probably quite small compared to many of the others, but the paths are planned out in such a way as to conceal that. And still maintaining excellent views. The hides come in all shapes and sizes, many of them permanent buildings, others log cabins. Most have seating, and some even have heating. And I would say that Washington The Tyne and Weir sticks in my mind as being one of the better planned and laid out reserves. Right, I'm getting back towards the visitor centre and main hides now, so I'm going to indulge in some more filming and still photography. Here's an idea of what I see. Welcome back. I do like that little basement area. You're right down on the same level as the birds. I had lunch here at the cafe. Simple but very tasty. Standards of catering all the reserves I've been to have been pretty high. Although I think your offspring might disagree with the Welsh definition of a sausage roll. I mentioned earlier that the reserve I would least likely to go back to would be London, and that's because I don't like London that much. So which is the one I'd most like to go back to? Well, the one I'd most like to go back to would be Northern Ireland, Castle Espy. And it would be a similar logic. I just love going to Northern Ireland. And that reserve is a particularly striking location by Strangford Lough. On the day I chose to go there, I was really treated to some fantastic lighting conditions. Worth getting soaked for. Other ones which made a particular impression on me, I'd say, were Sturt Marshes, for the feeling of isolation perhaps, and Washington. Here, once again, is what I thought of Washington. What an absolute belter of a reserve. If you want something done properly, come to the northeast. I don't know if you can make it out, but there is one more hide over in the distance. I think that'll be my last one for the day. This is a nice spot. A little distance away from the visitor centre, less of a crowd. Always something to see. I suppose one question I could answer is, am I a member of the WWT? Well, no. They're all just a bit too far away from me. I don't think I could justify the cost for being able to visit just a couple of times a year. Now, I'm not going to mention the price of admission to the reserves because that will change as time goes by. Various concessions are available for families, large groups, that kind of thing. I paid the full price where there is an admission charge. And in addition to that, I've taken the option of gift aid, which in the UK is a means by which organisations like WWT can claim back some tax, effectively boosting the admission fee for them. Whichever way you choose to do it, they're all value for money and represent excellent days out. If you're thinking of coming with a younger family, then look out on the website for the various activities which may be available during holidays particularly. And if you're not with a family, other things are available. I noticed in the cafe back there that they're organising sketching classes. I don't think I should enrol for that. I'm coming to the end of yet another fantastic day out with the WWT. You don't have to visit every single one of them, but I did, and I certainly enjoyed it. Any one of them will take you away to a place of tranquility and enjoyment, getting you closer to nature. I shall have to think of another quest now. How about visit every county in Northern Ireland? I like the sound of that. Whatever I choose to do, I hope to take you along with me. This was a return to Welney and the end of my journey around all the reserves as well. However, I don't think this will be the last time I ever come to a WWT reserve. I have been your avuncular host. Thanks for watching.